I'm 25 years old and I've been teaching elementary school for about a year now. My name is Gabriella, and up until recently, I lived with my parents in their suburban house in Minneapolis. It was the same house I grew up in, the same bedroom with the faded purple walls I had painted when I was 14. When I moved back in after college, the arrangement seemed fair enough. I paid them $600 a month for rent, bought all my own groceries, and helped out around the house. I did laundry, cleaned, and helped my mom organize things for her garage sales. The plan was simple: live at home for a couple of years, save up money, and then find my own place. Nothing complicated. But to understand how everything went so wrong, you need to know about my sister, Jenna. She's 32, 7 years older than me, and she has always been my parents' favorite. Always. Jenna dropped out of college twice. The first time, she said she wasn't feeling inspired by her major. The second time, she complained the professors were too demanding. Both times, my parents paid her full tuition. Both times, that money just vanished when she quit. Meanwhile, I worked at a Subway for 2 years to save up for college. I didn't even start until I was 20 because I had to save every single penny. Even then, I had to take out federal student loans to cover the rest. My parents never offered to help me pay for anything. Jenna has never been able to keep a job for longer than 6 months. She always has some excuse. Her boss was mean. The work was boring. Her coworkers were annoying. My parents never called her out on it. Instead, they just kept bailing her out. They paid the rent for whatever apartment she was living in at the time. They fixed her car whenever it broke down. They covered her parking tickets and gave her cash whenever she asked. I never said anything about the unfairness. What was the point? They had made their choice about who mattered more a long time ago. So I was living my quiet life, teaching second graders, coming home around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, grading papers and planning lessons. It was fine. Not exciting, but it was fine. Then one night, everything changed. It was a Tuesday. My mom had made spaghetti for dinner. We were all sitting around the table when Jenna walked in. She had this weird smile on her face, like she was holding a big secret. "I have news," she said, sitting down and grabbing a plate. "I'm pregnant." The room went completely silent. I looked at my parents, waiting for them to freak out. Jenna had been dating some guy for maybe 2 months. She didn't have a job. She was barely keeping her life together as it was. But instead of concern, my mom's face just lit up. "Oh my God, a baby, that's wonderful." My dad stood up and hugged Jenna. "Congratulations, sweetheart. This is amazing news." I just sat there with my fork halfway to my mouth, completely confused. "What about the father?" I finally asked. Jenna shrugged. "He's not in the picture anymore. He kind of disappeared when I told him." I waited for my parents to say something, anything, to point out that raising a baby alone with no job and no money was maybe not the best situation. But they didn't. "We'll help you with everything," Mom said, reaching across the table to hold Jenna's hand. "You're not alone in this." "We should start planning," Dad added. "You'll need a place to stay, the basement. We could renovate it, turn it into a proper apartment for you and the baby with a kitchenette," Mom said excitedly, "and we can paint it whatever color you want." They were already solving all her problems, just like they always did. Over the next few weeks, my parents threw themselves into the basement renovation. They were using money from their 401k retirement savings to pay for everything. New drywall, plumbing for the kitchenette, fresh paint, new flooring. I heard them talking about how much it was costing, but they never seemed worried about it. I tried to stay out of it. This was Jenna's mess, and if my parents wanted to enable her like they always had, that was their choice. I figured at least she'd be in the basement, in her own space, and it wouldn't really affect me. I was wrong. About 2 months after Jenna's announcement, my mom started with the comments. "You should spend more time with your sister. She's going through a difficult time right now. I work all day, Mom, and I have lesson planning and grading in the evenings. She's lonely, Gabriella. She doesn't have anyone to rely on." The way she said it, looking right at me, made it clear she thought I should be that person. Dad started in, too. He would drop these comments into random conversations. "You should be grateful for what you have, Gabriella. Not everyone is as lucky as you." Lucky? like having a job and paying my own way through life was some kind of privilege instead of basic responsibility. One evening, I came home from work and heard my parents talking in the kitchen. I was about to walk in when I heard my name. "Jenna is going to need a lot of help when the baby comes," Mom was saying. "We'll pitch in," Dad replied. "You, me, and Gabriella. Especially Gabriella. She doesn't have kids of her own, no boyfriend, no real obligations outside of work. She finishes at 3 every day. Perfect timing for helping with a baby." I stood there in the hallway, frozen. They were already planning my life for me, already deciding what I would be doing without even asking. I went to my room without saying anything. Jenna started coming over more often after that. She'd show up for dinner, complain about how hard pregnancy was, then look at me and say things like, "You're so lucky you have a stable job and don't have to deal with all this." Yeah, so lucky that I worked for everything I had instead of having it handed to me. 5 months into her pregnancy, things got worse. We were having pizza one night, all of us sitting around the table. Mom had that serious look on her face. "We need to have a family discussion," she said. I put down my slice, already dreading whatever was coming. "Jenna's going to need help with the baby," Mom continued. "A lot of help. And since Gabriella already lives here, and she's so good with children because she's a teacher, and she gets home at 3 every day, it just makes sense." "Makes sense for what?" I asked, even though I already knew. "For you to be the babysitter," Dad said. "You're already here. You have experience with kids. It's the logical choice." "I have a full-time job," I said slowly. "I can't babysit a newborn on top of teaching." "You get home at 3 o'clock, Mom said. "Most people work until 5 or 6. You have plenty of time. I have grading, lesson planning, parent emails. My work doesn't end when I leave the building." Jenna looked up from her phone for the first time. She had this smirk on her face. "I didn't know helping your sister was such a huge problem for you, Gabriella. It's not about that. I have my own life, my own responsibilities." "That's incredibly selfish," Mom said, her voice getting sharp. "We're family. Family helps each other." "And let's not forget," Dad added, "you don't pay market rent. You pay $600 to live here. Market rate would be $1,500. Easy. So you owe us." I stared at him. "I pay rent. I buy my own food. I help around the house all the time. I'm not living here for free." "If you're not ready to help your sister," Mom said coldly, "then we need to discuss your living arrangement. Maybe it's time we charged you what you should actually be paying." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They were threatening to raise my rent if I didn't become Jenna's free babysitter. I stood up from the table without saying another word and went to my room. I slammed the door hard enough that it shook the frame. The next few days were miserable. My parents kept making these passive-aggressive comments every chance they got. "Must be nice to have so much free time after work," Dad would say when I was in my room grading papers. "Some people just don't understand what family means," Mom would mutter loud enough for me to hear. Jenna acted like she owned the place. She'd show up whenever she wanted, leave her stuff everywhere, and eat my groceries. I bought organic produce from Whole Foods because I tried to eat healthy. Jenna would just help herself to whatever was in the fridge. One day, I came home and found her eating my strawberries straight from the container. "Those are mine," I said. "Mom said I could have them." "Don't be such a drama queen, Gabriella." Before I could respond, Mom appeared in the kitchen. "Gabriella, I need you to apologize to your sister right now for making her feel unwelcome. This is her home too. You need to learn how to share." I just walked away. There was no point in arguing. A week later, things got even worse. My parents sat me down and told me that with Jenna moving in full-time, their expenses were going up. If I wasn't willing to help with the baby, they'd have to raise my rent to $1,500. Dad actually showed me an Excel spreadsheet he'd made. He pointed at numbers and explained how much diapers cost, how much formula would be, how Jenna needed help with bills. That's when I knew I had to leave. I didn't have a lot of savings, but I remembered my colleague Madison mentioning her friend needed a roommate. I texted Madison that night. She got back to me the next day. There was a room available in St. Paul for $850 a month, including utilities. It wasn't fancy, but it would be mine. I told Madison I'd take it. I started packing in secret. I'd stuff things in trash bags and hide them in the trunk of my Honda Civic under a blanket. I took pictures of everything in my room, my furniture, my TV, my laptop, all my electronics. I photographed the serial numbers too, just in case there were any disputes later. My plan was to leave while everyone was busy. I would move out quietly and leave a letter explaining everything. Clean, simple, no drama. But I made one stupid mistake. I left my laptop open in my room with the letter I'd written pulled up on the screen. My mom went into my room and read it. Then she printed it out. When I got home from work that day, both my parents were waiting in the living room. Dad was holding the printed letter like it was evidence of a crime. "What is this?" he demanded. "Are you planning to abandon us?" There was no point in lying. I found a place to live. I'm moving out at the end of the month. Mom started crying, actual tears running down her face. "How could you do this to us, to your sister? She needs you, Gabriella. She needs a babysitter. I'm not volunteering for that job." Dad's face turned red. "We gave you so much by letting you live here. We helped you get back on your feet after college. I pay rent. I buy my own food. I've been responsible for myself since I was 20 years old. I'm not your backup plan for Jenna's mistakes." Neither of them had anything to say to that. They just stared at me with these angry, disappointed faces. The next few days were incredibly awkward. My parents barely spoke to me except to make comments about how I was betraying the family. Jenna acted like nothing was happening. She kept bringing boxes from Amazon into the house, filling the basement with baby furniture from Target, taking up more and more space. Moving day finally came. I'd arranged for Madison to come help me load everything. I thought I'd be able to get out early while Jenna was still asleep and my parents were doing their morning routine. But Dad appeared at the top of the stairs, just as I was carrying out the first box. "What the hell is going on?" he shouted. He followed me outside, yelling the whole way. "You're abandoning your family after everything we've done for you." Mom came to the doorway in her bathrobe, crying again. "What about Jenna? What about the baby?" "Jenna and the baby are not my problem," I said, loading the box into my car. "I can't sacrifice my entire life to fix her mistakes." Then Jenna appeared from the basement. Her hair was a mess, but she was smiling, like this was all entertaining to her. "Don't worry, Mom," she said. "If Gabriella wants to be selfish, let her go. We don't need a traitor in this family anyway." Madison helped me load the rest of my stuff while my parents stood there screaming about how heartless I was. Jenna watched like it was a free show. I got in my car and drove away without looking back. Madison's apartment was clean and quiet. No yelling, no manipulation, no drama. Just peace. 3 hours later, my phone started blowing up. My parents, my aunts, my cousins, everyone calling and texting. Mom had already spread the word that I'd abandoned my pregnant sister. Aunt Linda left me a voicemail about how I could do such a terrible thing. My cousin texted me on WhatsApp, calling me an egotist. Then I saw Jenna's Instagram post, a photo of her pregnant belly with a caption about how some people run away instead of helping family, but her baby would learn what true love really meant. I blocked her. I blocked all of them. A week later, Mom showed up at my school during lunch. She was crying, begging to talk, telling me I had destroyed the family. My principal had to ask her to leave. It was humiliating. I realized then that I had forgotten some important documents at the house, my Minnesota teaching license and my W-2 forms. I'd need those for taxes. 2 weeks after moving out, I went back with Madison and another colleague, Olivia. Safety in numbers. My old room was unrecognizable. Jenna had moved her stuff in and mixed it with mine. There were random clothes in my dresser, and baby outfits from Bye Bye Baby were spread across my desk. Jenna showed up holding a Starbucks cup, looking completely unbothered. "It's kind of hard to tell what's yours and what's mine now," she said with a shrug. "So you probably shouldn't take anything." I pulled out my phone and showed her the photos I'd taken. "This is my room before you touched it. Here's the list of everything I bought, with serial numbers for all the electronics." My parents appeared then. Dad threatened to call 911 if I took one more thing. Go ahead, I said. I'll tell them my sister entered my room without permission and used my belongings. That's a violation of tenant rights in Minnesota. That shut him up real fast. With Madison and Olivia helping, I packed up everything that was mine. When Jenna tried to claim my MacBook was hers, I showed her the receipt from Best Buy and the serial number. The only person stealing here is you, I told her. You tried to steal my time, my freedom, and turn me into your unpaid babysitter. Not happening. I walked out with all my stuff and never went back. 6 months passed after I moved out. 6 months of peace and quiet in Madison's apartment. No drama, no guilt trips, no one demanding I sacrifice my life for someone else's choices. During that time, Jenna had her baby, a girl. I heard about it through the family grapevine, not directly from anyone. I didn't reach out, and honestly, I didn't care to. According to the few relatives who still talk to me, things had fallen apart exactly like I predicted they would. My parents were now providing full-time care for Jenna's daughter. They were the ones getting up at night for feedings, changing diapers, doing everything. And they were exhausted, completely worn out. Jenna wasn't even trying to find a job. She claimed she was too stressed with the baby to work. But from what I heard, she spent most of her time on TikTok and Instagram, posting photos of the baby and ignoring her actual child care responsibilities. She was still living in my parents' basement. The renovation they'd started had never been finished. They'd drained a huge chunk of their 401k savings on it and run out of money partway through. So Jenna was living in a half-finished basement with a crying baby while my parents scrambled to keep everything together. Exactly what they'd tried to force on me, they were now stuck with themselves. My parents tried contacting me several times. At first, the messages were angry, texts about how ungrateful I was, how I'd abandoned my family when they needed me most. When anger didn't work, they switched to manipulation. Messages about how the baby needed me, how I was missing out on being an aunt, how family was supposed to stick together. Their latest strategy was sending me photos of my niece with captions about how every child needs an aunt in their life. I blocked them on Facebook and set up filters in Gmail so their emails went straight to trash. I was done with their manipulation. One night, Madison asked me if I ever felt guilty about it. Not even a little bit, I told her. Really? Not at all? They had a choice. They could have respected my boundaries. They could have asked me to babysit sometimes like normal people do, maybe watch the baby for a few hours on a weekend. I would have said yes to that. I love kids. That's why I became a teacher. But they demanded. They threatened to raise my rent if I didn't become a free, full-time nanny. They tried to blackmail me into giving up my entire life for Jenna's mistake. So no, I don't feel guilty. And I meant it. I really didn't. The thing is, if my parents had just been reasonable, none of this would have happened. If they'd treated me like an actual person with my own life instead of a built-in childcare solution, I would have helped sometimes. I would have been a good aunt. I thought about reaching out once, just once. It was late at night. I'd had a glass of wine and I was feeling sentimental. I actually pulled up a new email and started typing, but then I stopped and asked myself what would actually change if I contacted them. Would they apologize? Would they admit they were wrong? Would they respect my boundaries going forward? The answer was no. They would just see it as me giving in. They'd take it as permission to start making demands again. So, I deleted the email and blocked their numbers one more time. I heard through Aunt Linda that my parents kept asking about me, kept trying to find ways to contact me. They'd even shown up at my old school once, but I had already warned the office not to let them in. Aunt Linda was one of the few people I still talked to. She didn't judge me for leaving. She understood. Your parents are struggling, she told me during one of our calls. But that's not your fault. They made their own decisions. How's Jenna doing? Same as always, posting on social media, acting like she's Mother of the Year, letting your parents do all the actual work. Sounds about right. They keep asking me to convince you to come back. I tell them that you're an adult and you make your own choices, that if they want a relationship with you, they need to apologize and change their behavior first. Thank you. I'm proud of you, Gabriella. You stood up for yourself. That takes courage. I appreciated her saying that because sometimes, late at night, I did wonder if I'd done the right thing, if maybe I should have just sucked it up and helped out. But then I'd remember the threats, the manipulation, the complete lack of respect for my time, my career, my life. And I'd remember that standing up for myself wasn't selfish, it was necessary. And 6 months after leaving, my life was better than it had ever been. I had my own space, good roommates, a job I loved, and zero family drama. I had made it clear to my parents through Aunt Linda that I wasn't interested in rebuilding the relationship unless they acknowledged what they'd done and made real changes. It's been 6 months since I left, and my life looks completely different now. Better. So much better. I'm still teaching 2nd grade, and I actually got a raise this year. My principal nominated me for a Teaching Excellence Award. I didn't win, but just being nominated felt good. It felt like recognition for the work I actually do. Madison and I get along great as roommates. We cook dinner together sometimes, watch movies on weekends, and have actual normal conversations that don't involve guilt trips or manipulation. Her boyfriend comes over occasionally and we all hang out. It's peaceful. I've been saving money too. Real money this time. Without my parents threatening to raise my rent or Jenna eating all my groceries, I'm actually building up my savings account. I'm thinking about getting my own place in another year or so, maybe a small condo. Last week, one of my students gave me a drawing she'd made. It was a picture of me with a big smile, standing in front of our classroom. She'd written "Best Teacher Ever" at the top in purple crayon. I put it on my refrigerator and I thought about how this, right here, was what mattered. Making a difference in kids' lives, having a job I cared about, building a life I was proud of, not babysitting my sister's kid for free because my parents decided I owed them. Sometimes people ask me if I regret how things turned out, if I wish I'd handled it differently. The answer is no. I don't regret it at all. Because here's what I learned from all of this. Boundaries matter. Your time matters. Your life matters. My parents saw me as a solution to Jenna's problem, not as a person with my own goals and responsibilities. They didn't ask if I could help. They demanded it. They threatened me when I said no. That's not how family is supposed to work. If they'd just been reasonable, everything would be different. If they'd said, "Hey, Gabriella, would you be willing to watch the baby for a few hours on Saturday mornings?" I would have said yes. I love kids. That's literally my career. But they didn't want a few hours of help. They wanted me to be a full-time, unpaid nanny on top of my full-time teaching job. They wanted me to give up my evenings, my weekends, my entire life. And when I refused, they tried to punish me by raising my rent. So I left, and I don't feel bad about it. Aunt Linda called me yesterday. She said Jenna is still not working, still living in the basement, still letting my parents do everything. The baby is 6 months old now, and my parents look like they've aged 10 years. They're asking about you again, Aunt Linda told me. I told them the same thing I always say, that you're doing well, and if they want to talk to you, they need to apologize first. Have they? No. Your father says they have nothing to apologize for, that you're the one who abandoned the family. I wasn't surprised. My parents would never admit they were wrong. That would mean acknowledging that they treated me unfairly my entire life, that they'd always put Jenna first and expected me to just accept it. How are you doing? Really? Aunt Linda asked. Honestly, I'm great. I'm happy. My life is exactly what I want it to be. Good. You deserve that. After we hung up, I sat on my couch and thought about everything that had happened, about the threats, the manipulation, the guilt trips, about moving out in secret and blocking everyone. Some people might think I overreacted, that I should have just helped out, because that's what family does. But those people don't understand what it's like to be treated as less important your entire life. To watch your parents pay for your sister's college twice while you work at Subway to afford your own. To have them fix her car and pay her rent while you handle everything yourself. To finally achieve something stable and good, only to have them try to turn you into free childcare. I stood up for myself. I defended my boundaries. I chose my own well-being over their demands, and I'm not sorry about that. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Madison asking if I wanted Thai food for dinner. I texted back yes and smiled. This was my life now. Simple, peaceful, drama-free. A life where I made my own choices and didn't apologize for having boundaries. My parents and Jenna created their own situation. They chose manipulation over respect. They chose demands over requests. They're dealing with the consequences of those choices now. And me? I'm finally free. I don't need their approval anymore. I just need to keep living my life on my own terms, with people who actually respect me. End of story.